and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Cersei the Watchful. Welcome to Follow-Up Friday. It is August 17th, and we're back.
Yes, back with another Follow-Up Friday, show we do every week where we answer your guys' ravens, theories, questions.
Crazy tinfoil stuff, rabbit hole situations.
Fun comments, discouraging remarks.
Yeah.
What we just do, we take them all.
We take it all, yeah. So kind of like Barrick, you know.
Yeah, Barrick Dondarrion, who
he just keeps taking it.
We were watching we were watching a clip. We always watch a clip before the show to kind of get pumped, and we just watched the one of Barrick Dondarrion get resurrected after he loses the Hound.
Yeah, and Sir Matt actually, so Barrick Dondarrion's my favorite character, and he asked me a really good question. He's just like, how good can Barrick be?
Yeah,
I mean, he's getting killed
he just gets killed
all the time.
Like in the show, in the book, it's pretty similar, but it's a little bit it's a little bit different. In the show, he's like, he asks Thoros and Merry, and he says, "How many times have I been brought back?" He's like, 5, 6.
Yeah,
I lost count.
Right.
Like, oh man,
like wow, you're really not holding up too well, are you? There?
Yeah. So
that's funny.
Alrighty. Well, Sir Ezra, how's it going?
It's going well. Back to school. It's been busy, and it's exciting though. It's a new start, so really busy. I mean, it crazy for me. I just sold the place and then kind of settled down here for a bit, and then back to school, and then looking for a new place.
Wow, yeah,
it's just kind of wild.
I just put in my notice at work.
Yeah, things are changing around here.
I will say, I was on another podcast earlier this week for some other projects, and they podcast online. So it was kind of cool to see, because we've done it before,
right? Just
differently, and the way they do it is so much easier. So I'm actually much more pleased about our show going forward now that we've got that technical detail a little more straightened out.
Yeah, because you learned some good tips there.
Yeah, because we'd always done it one way before, and so it's just
should make it easier.
Yeah, make it easier. Keep that quality as high as possible. So
that's right. We know what you expect.
Yeah, guys, we're just always working on the show. I came over today. And I was, I think I flew. So I was like, "Whoa, man!" I was like, I have like pages of notes,
right,
that I was just reading and all over the place this week. So
that was great. Are we going to go over some of those notes?
They may come up.
Okay, all right.
They may come up. We'll see.
I like it.
All right. Well, trivia winner once again back on top. Sir Robbie of Newcastle. The trivia was, what is the sigil of House Martell? And it is it's like an orange shield with a spear going through the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had to use your adjectives there just to describe that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we had a lot of people enter. But I will say this: Sir Robbie told me, he said, "I'm going on vacation."
Oh no!
2 weeks. There we go. It's
look out.
wide open.
It's open.
It's open.
If you're listening and you're like, I can't get to, no, you can.
Lady Kelsey had told me that she had gotten up early the day we forgot trivia.
Wow.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to make it up, and we'll do 2 trivia questions. Actually do 2 trivia questions.
Let's just call that the day that shall not be named, you know, something like that. I don't know.
Maybe we should start with 1.
Right, yeah.
We're not going to start with 1 this episode.
No.
But we actually have it in the notes, so we're not going to forget it.
We're not going to forget it, yeah. We got it.
So, all right, well, we'll say we have a lot of new patrons, which is always awesome, working on your guys' sigils. Sir James Hunter, man.
I know, solid.
He is hitting us up left and right with emails and everything. It's awesome. We have the group going.
Yep.
Some people were. I bought a Lannister shirt. I think I kind of may have
threw some people off.
I think I did. I think I cost us some listeners.
You might have.
I don't know. There was a couple saying they were all about it. So I support all the great houses.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. I'm going to need to speak with your brother a little bit, too. I didn't realize. I kind of had forgot that he is a big Lannister guy. You've mentioned that before. He is,
yeah.
And he's hopping in the group there just getting after it.
Yeah.
Trying to rock the boat.
He's like, hey, Tyrion, man. A lot of people. Jamie is his favorite character, though, I think. So.
Yeah, and
he likes
see
Tywin a lot, too. Yeah,
I see that. Jamie's actually really cool.
Yeah, anti-heroes. I'm a big fan of anti-heroes. So.
Right.
All right. Well, Sir, as we want to go ahead and jump into here to some Ravens and theories.
Yeah, let's do it. We got a lot to get to today.
This is going to be a long episode.
Yeah, going to be a long one. So we're not even going to list off all the names of the Ravens that we have because we're not sure if we can get to them all. So we will see how we do on time. Yeah. So, okay. Hey, guys, love the show. This is from our good hedge knight buddy, James Hunter. This is a new hedge knight. and thought he would attempt to send us a raven. All right, glad, very glad. I'm show heavy right now, but you guys are fixing that, that's great. So getting more into the books. He's been into the Stark endgame. This whole, he's been in the whole endgame theory with the Starks, like where they're going.
Right.
It's clear that the path of the broken horn kind of leads back to Winterfell, in his opinion. Okay, so I like that. So after Sam fixes the horn, do you think it's possible that the horn is meant to be blown in the crypts of Winterfell, releasing all the dead Starks, or something else bigger, which might then collapse the city of, quote, Winterfell, end quote?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Yeah.
Sir Matt. And actually, he has a follow-up, too. Maybe I should read that, too.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, because he has a follow-up here to that first Raven, and it's more kind of a, this is going to get, we'll talk book and show, but I think his second follow-up here is more based on the show.
Yeah, gotcha.
So in the first season, when Dany hatches her eggs and has a vision of old dead kings, which when I talk to different people about that, basically that clip, they think or believe that it's old Targaryen kings or gods of some kind. I was watching a clip of the cup that Joffrey drinks from at his wedding, so like a close-up of that. And let's see, so from his wedding to the Tyrells, to the Tyrell girl, that had every house sigil and their gemstone on the cup, and under the Stark sigil, there was a pearl. The ghost that Dany saw in her vision had been described as having pearl eyes. Is it possible that those dead Stark kings instead of is it possible that those are dead Stark kings instead of the Targaryen kings that a lot of people believe that they may be? So the other question here is, does she have to blow the horn, or does it end up in Dany, Azor Ahai, a.k.a. Azor Ahai, or does it end up that Dany is Azor Ahai and that the dragon is Lightbringer?
Theory, which he is not a fan of.
He's not a fan of that. And actually, so today we're talking a lot about Azor Ahai and we're talking a lot about Lightbringer. So we have a lot of different ravens today about that. So we have a lot to discuss on that. But quickly, Sir Matt, your initial thoughts.
Yeah, there's definitely something. I don't think, like he said, in the show, I don't think we're not going to see the Horn of Winter, because a lot of people think that the Horn of Winter could bring down the wall. That's kind of what we're led to believe when they're talking about, Mance Rayder, and they were searching these crypts of like old wildling kings. Right. But yeah, this Winterfell thing. A lot of people feel like there's a lot
to that.
And there's also, is there something in the Winterfell crypts? Winterfell's built on a hot spring. Is that just a good place for it to be? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because they let you know about it early on in that Catelyn chapter we'd read, where she talks about the walls. She likes to run her hands on the walls
because they're warm.
Because they're warm, right? Yeah. And she's from the south. So I don't know. Somebody had mentioned something a while back, possibly about what if Lightbringer is down in the crypts? Maybe it's in maybe Lyanna's. Like, why is Lyanna have a tomb there?
Yep.
So there's a lot to it. I don't know. It's all possible.
Yeah.
In the show, I think the whole Winterfell. I don't know, but in the books, man,
it could be, because it's the idea. I think the literal winter fell here.
Right.
Here is the place where winter fell. And it's one of those, either it will fall here again, right? If it's kind of this cycle that we're having, it fell before here and it will fall here again, or there's some power there in Winterfell,
right?
So
maybe there's something magical about the water there, that hot spring that it's built on, because in the show, at least, it seems like the Night King can't cross water.
Yeah,
or is at least nervous about it, right? Because
yeah.
Because remember, they're nervous about they don't just immediately rush them when they're on the lake.
Oh yeah,
and they also don't seem to go into the water at Hardhome.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe it was that hot spring. Maybe that was a trap, and they lured.
Or they have something trapped there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Good thought. Yeah. So. Okay, yeah, I think though we've got more thoughts here. We've got a lot more thoughts on Azor Ahai and Lightbringer though.
Yeah, we have
talking about
Lord Adam Parker sent us an enormous theory on Lightbringer.
Right. Sam the Hammer did as
well. He also sent us
an
enormous theory on dragons, which we still gonna have to put off because this Lightbringer one's it's too big too.
Right, and it was kind of a common theme.
Not too big. It's not a problem. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
It's this episode. We have a lot of Lightbringer questions. So
right.
Saving that one.
Okay, so let's see here. Let's just dive into the next one real quick. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember who this was from.
I believe this was
let me go back real quick. I like to get this
Mog.
Right. Yeah. That was actually kind of a funny way to put that. So
New Raven Sender, I believe.
Is it new? Yeah. Let me see because I want to get the name right.
Looks like it's Mog of Lannisport.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, pretty cool. I thought that was actually kind of funny because it's
right.
like the turnkey,
mm-hmm.
That
Tyrion gives the gold to. Remember?
Yeah. Type of situation. So, okay, you want to read this one, Sir Matt?
Sure. My lords, I have just started listening to the cast, and I am absolutely in love. I have binged 5 episodes already. I appreciate the depth that you two go into and your ability to entertain and analyze any and all theories. Forgive me if I'm bringing up something that you have already discussed in detail, but real quick, I want to stop there. We get a lot of people that say that.
Yeah.
They say, hey, forgive me if you guys have already talked about this.
No, we'll talk about
There's no need. There's nothing to forgive.
Yeah, there's nothing
to forget.
Yes.
Trust me. We'll go back over theories left and right.
Yep.
But I find Jaime Lannister to be the most interesting character in the Song of Ice and Fire. Gur is amazing at character development, and I think the Kingslayer is one of his masterpieces. Mm-hmm. Everyone starts out in the shows or the books hating him. He is arrogant and hateful, and he sleeps with his sister.
Yeah.
And before we have time to even process his shittiness, he has thrown a child out of a window.
Yeah.
But as the story goes on, we realize that there is way more to his actions than first appear. His love and commitment to his sister is actually quite endearing, and he keeps his true and heroic motivation for killing the Mad King humbly close to himself. My favorite fan theory is that Jaime and Cersei may be bastards of the Mad King. It certainly makes sense given Cersei's likeness to the Mad King, selfish ambition to rule and crush all who oppose him. Let us not forget Cersei actually succeeds in carrying out the Mad King's wildfire plot to burn down King's Landing. That's in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Where she destroys the Sept of Baelor. Really beautiful irony considering stopping this plot was the reason Jaime killed him, the Mad King.
Yep.
Furthermore, if Jaime is a Targaryen, this would mean he could be the prince that was promised. I read somewhere a while ago that one possible translation of Azor Ahai is the Golden Hand. If this isn't a reference to Jaime, then I don't know what is. Exactly. But it is the most compelling evidence for this theory is the story of Lightbringer. I always thought it was interesting how Azor Ahai secondly had to drive his sword through the heart of a lion when attempting to forge Lightbringer. I mean, Gur has created this fantasy world with magic and sorcery and dragons, and he chooses a lion of all things. That just so happens to be the house sigil of the Lannisters. Let us not forget that lastly, he had to drive a sword through the heart of a woman he loves. I think everyone is expecting Jaime to be the one to kill Cersei in Season 8. It would just so happen that killing Cersei would meet both requirements needed to forge Lightbringer, since she is his true love and a lion of Lannister. Sorry to make this Raven so long, but I would love to hear you guys riff on this one for a while. Yours always, is it Morg?
Yeah, Morg.
Morg, turnkey of Lannisport.
Yeah.
P.S. How awesome would it be if Tyrion was the only true Lannister? Lord Tywin would roll in his golden grave.
Yes, he would.
Yeah. You could argue that the Jaime we know now was born amidst salt and smoke, right? Because he gets his hand cut off, and then it's when Qyburn is kind of
working on him.
Mm-hmm. You've got to clean it and stuff like that too. So
yeah, kind of reborn in a sense there, and you see a shift in his character,
Absolutely.
and stuff. So I mean, kind of going through a trial like that, you can hit a low spot and then be, in a sense, reborn.
Right. He's also the Kingslayer, which the idea of him being the Kingslayer, well, he's kill the Night King.
Right. Yeah. We've talked about that. I think you have mentioned this to me before, whether it was on the show or outside of it, the idea that Jaime, would fulfill two, of the three by killing his sister here, to forge Lightbringer. So, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Again, I think it's one of those things like, okay, so the original forging of Lightbringer, to me, was sort of like a trial and error. Like we were working on it, we didn't get it right, we didn't get it right, and then finally we have to, run it through the heart of someone that we love, right? And so finally, that's how it's forged. But so my question is, do you need to do all three of those things?
Don't know.
So it is such an old.
I'm with you though. It does to me seem kind of like a trial and error. Actually, if you go back and if you're familiar with Attila the Hun, similar type of a thing where he kind of gets the sword forged and it takes a while, and works all these days on it or whatever. Then it eventually breaks and he kind of loses his power and whatever. But it's similar. That's the first thing I think of when I think of Lightbringer. That's probably where Gur drew some inspiration from. He's drew inspiration from a lot of European history.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. So you're with me on the idea that it's originally, and again, that's an old prophecy, something passed down.
And I had said a while back, I'm sure other people have said it as well, is to me it makes less sense that Tyrion is a Targaryen. I mean, I like the idea. The Tyrion Targaryen theory is great, and they all make sense. But I do kind of agree here with this Raven in that if it was actually, it's the bedding night, right, is where we specifically know that the Mad King wanted to take liberties, or it says did take liberties.
Yeah.
So theoretically, Tyrion would come later.
Right, exactly.
And Tywin, to me, seems like the smart enough guy that he's not gonna, if it happens once, it's not going to happen again.
Right.
Yeah. So if the Mad King were ever to take liberties, it would be on that bedding night, and that would make more sense for Jaime and Cersei.
Yeah, I think that's the only way he could have taken advantage there.
Because then Tywin kind of sends her back to Castle Rock. Let's.
Yeah, I wonder if there is a little more history on his wife and the Mad King growing up, because they're friends for quite some time, and Aerys is betrothed to his sister early on. Right. So I just kind of wonder if there's more there. I'd have to go look it up. But yeah, it just makes more sense that it would be maybe Jaime, and Cersei versus Tyrion. So yeah.
So yeah, but because then it would diminish the Tyrion Tywin relationship, and the whole, I think, Tyrion as a character, if it turns out that Tywin wasn't his dad, it kind of takes away from the importance of him killing Tywin.
Mm-hmm.
That is his defining moment, is that he kills his dad.
Yeah.
For everything he's ever put him through.
True.
And and the last word, kind of his last words, you're no son of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Not you're no son of mine, you're not actually my son. It's he's disowning him, and Tyrion says, "Well, now you're dead."
Now you're
dead.
Yeah, it is more powerful.
It's way more powerful that way.
Yeah, if he's actually his father.
Yeah.
So.
And it would make a lot of sense, the Jaime Cersei connection, because Cersei does seem far more like a. She seems more similar to the Mad King than she does Tywin. And then also, remember, she wanted to be betrothed to Rhaegar, which that would be interesting.
Who, Cersei?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that would make it more of a actual.
Could
have actually been somewhat more of a legitimate thing. Although then you'd have her, she would be a bastard. And she'd be on the Iron Throne.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as we get into the Lightbringer discussion, I thought I would just read some of this stuff straight from the wiki, because some of our Ravens pull from this, and some of them pull directly from the book, which is great. So Lightbringer is the sword of Azor Ahai. We've talked about Azor Ahai quite a bit. It's a legend. He's a legendary hero. He or she. What am I trying to say there? He or she, a legendary hero who is prophesied to fight the Great Other. Lightbringer is thought to be a sword made of living fire. It is also known as the Red Sword of Heroes. Now, the legend here, as we were just mentioning, it's a sword that Azor Ahai labored over for 30 days and 30 nights until it's done, and he goes to temper this sword in water, and the sword is broke. And then he doesn't give up on it. He starts over. The second time, he took 50 days and 50 nights to make the sword even better. He goes to temper it. He captured a lion, drove the sword into its heart, and again, the steel is shattered. Third time, with a heavy heart, he himself has a heavy heart. He knew beforehand that what he must do to finish the blade, and that's when he plunges it. After 100 days of working on it, 100 days, 100 nights, it's finished, and he calls forth his wife Nisa, and he asks her to bare her breast, and he drives that sword into her heart, her soul. You're kind of combining the steel of the sword, creating Lightbringer, while her cry of anguish in ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon. All right, so then it's prophesied in Ahai that when the stars bleed and the cold winds blow, a warrior shall draw from the fire a burning sword. That sword will be Lightbringer. The one who draws it will be Azor Ahai reborn. Okay, and Melisandre is proclaiming it's Stannis. Mm-hmm. And so as far as we know, we've got somebody really. We've got a lot of men behind him, and he has a flaming sword. There was no heat to it, right? I think one of the things is you would feel heat from it, and so it's just a trick, apparently, right? So not Stannis. So we're going to get into some more Ravens today about possibly who, Azor Ahai and could be possibly Lightbringer, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I actually just pulled up here the sword of Attila, which is Attila the Hun.
Yeah.
Also called the Sword of Mars or Sword of God, was a legendary weapon carried by Attila the Hun. And it said that when a certain shepherd beheld kind of this sword, he found this trail of blood. I can skip some of the stuff. It's not here. Anyway, he comes to a sword.
Yeah.
And he dug it up and took it straight to Attila the Hun. But I thought that it broke and he tried to fix it. Maybe there was a TV movie. Maybe I'm thinking of the TV movie with Gerard Butler. But I'll have to do.
Do some more digging on it.
Just digging on that. But that to me just seems similar. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool to kind of see whereabouts Gur where those influences come from. You know? So kind of neat. Okay, all right. Next up, we've got another Raven here. This is from our good friend Sam the Hammer. Mm-hmm. Bit of a long one, but it's decent here. So, good day, Sir Matt and Sir Ezra. As lots of the conversation recently has been around Rhaegar and the Long Night prophecies, I wanted to share with you a few questions that I have and a half-baked theory to go with it. Why is it that the three main non-Stark characters, non-Stark characters, Jon, Dany, and Tyrion.
Well, he's not. He's a Targaryen.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
That's great. All lost their mothers in childbirth. All of them lost their mothers in childbirth. It's quite common in Westeros, but potentially significant in the story. As you mentioned over the last couple of episodes, the link between prophecies are difficult to decipher and sometimes misleading. Many people assume that Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised are one and the same, but I've always liked the idea that they are different people. I also heard a theory recently that Jon is Lightbringer. Quote, I am the sword in the darkness, end quote, etc. A metaphorical sword rather than a literal one. So that would mean that Rhaegar was Azor Ahai forging his sword in the woman he loved. Mm-hmm. If you get my meaning there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's that. Again, this is a half-baked theory. No, just kidding. Sam, this is actually fantastic. I read the whole thing earlier. But like the dragon needing 3 heads, Azor Ahai forged 3 swords in the fight against the Long Night. One forged in water, one forged in a lion. Maybe this was Rhaegar's realization, that he had to sire 3 children who would lead the fight against the Long Night. Maybe he knew that these would have to result in the death of their mother to be strong enough to survive. Or maybe that's just happenstance. Potentially, Rhaegar left Elia not because she died giving birth, but because she would not die giving birth. Question mark. Okay. So the idea is that maybe he if your mother dies in childbirth, perhaps you took something there. There's some power that you're taking there, and that I guess is the way I'm kind of wrapping my head around it. So next, the lion instantly suggests a Lannister. Again, we're we are regularly led to believe that Aerys is the contender to be Tyrion's secret Targ daddy. But what if it were Rhaegar? Okay, interesting. So what if Rhaegar then is Tyrion's father? He would have been 14 when Tyrion was born, so not out of the question in Westeros. And maybe Joanna liked him young.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe she did.
Yeah.
You know? It's a classic bait and switch from Gur to draw your eye to Aerys and drop in Rhaegar at the last minute. And that is, he does do that.
He does.
Weirdly, this leaves Dany. Details about her conception, birth, and her mother's death are vague, but if the known timeline is true, it's feasible that Rhaegar could be her father. Again, it's not completely out of character for the Targaryen family dynamic. Aerys, I think it should be, right, was abusive to Rhaella, and as her firstborn, Rhaegar would likely have acted against his father to protect his mother. Maybe this unusual dynamic led to a change in their relationship. It's possible that Aerys distrust of both his wife and his son, and his ultimate madness had stemmed from that distrust.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, so if there is something fishy going on between mother and son there, that would definitely drive somebody mad, wouldn't it?
No, for sure, yeah.
Rhaella's name comes from the River Rhoyne, so that would be the link to water, forging that sword in water, his seed in water, right? Okay. And
it would
then,
also, his bastard would be a Waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Because he's Targaryen. That's the Waters.
Yeah.
Of that region.
Of that region.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Carrying this theory to its crackpot conclusion would suggest that Dany dies first in the battle with the Night King, followed by Tyrion, before Jon ultimately prevails. As a theory, it's full of holes, but like all good prophecies, it's open to interpretation.
Absolutely.
Agreed there. Lyanna could represent the lion, Lyanna, lion, or the water, ice and snow. Maybe Dany's not Rhaella's baby, but someone else, ferried away in secret. Maybe there's a third Targ bastard that we are yet to identify. And then this is kind of a neat little mention here. Didn't Mance Raider's wife just die from complications during childbirth?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And so then you get into all the theories of, we've talked about it time and time again, who is Mance Raider really?
Exactly.
Who is he really?
Well, I mean, you got Blackfires out there. You've got we were actually, Cersei and I were discussing something earlier. Last week we were talking a lot about Old Nan and who is Old Nan.
Yeah.
And we were talking about these theories. Perhaps she's Lady Roanne Weber. There's a big theory out there that she could be Shiara Seastar, and that maybe, I know you and I were just randomly throwing out the idea, well, what if it was like Bloodraven and Shiara Seastar have this line, Mance Raider, who was born at the Wall, could come from potentially that line. If you would, that would make him a Targaryen.
Yeah.
And that would also potentially make Val.
Yeah, we were thinking about that. How that
Val
whole connection
could also be one too. If
with like if Old Nan, and again a big if.
That's a huge a lot of ifs, but
a lot of ifs to get you there. But I mean, if somehow, she was sent. Old Nan says that So really, you get back to Bloodraven is looking. He keeps his eye on Winterfell, and he's looking for Bran to come. And which Bran will it be? And Old Nan's always confused by the Brans, right? She gets them all mixed up. But she's there. If she is, Shiara Seastar, then her role there is to nurse and to protect, and maybe even to feed these stories,
right?
To give these Brandons, these stories, and it's through that telling of the story of the others and the prophecy that this boy will be born, and this spark of interest will carry him beyond the wall. So yeah, there's. So there's another crackpot
and then
theory
the three heads of the dragon. Cersei and I have been talking about this. I don't know if we talked about it on the show last week, or if we just talked about it outside of the show. But we were talking about the three heads of the dragon, and whether it actually has anything to do with Azor Ahai or not. It could just be a separate kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then another thing, I took a lot of notes, and it's funny because a lot of these notes that I took this week had to do with this.
Go over some of those notes.
Yeah, let me just only because a lot of it pertains to what it is we're actually what is we're actually talking about here. So, the three heads of the dragon, right? So I say the original three was Aegon and his two wives. So, because the three heads of the dragon only became a thing because when Aegon the Conqueror came over, he made a sigil and he said, "Well, there's three of us. Let's do a three-headed dragon." So Azor Ahai existed well before this three heads of the dragon.
Yeah.
Thing, right? And
Azor Ahai?
Well before Aegon's conquest.
Right.
So I'm kind of thinking that this three heads of the dragon business is kind of meant to throw us off.
Yeah.
Or it could be a separate thing, kind of like I'm going to reference Harry Potter here. In the last book of Harry Potter, you kind of have the Horcruxes and the Deathly Hallows. They're two separate things, but they're kind of like, well, maybe we could use, say, like the Elder Wand to beat the Horcruxes, right? And maybe that is actually what's happening here. Maybe there's this three heads of the dragon thing that is separate but could play a part.
Yeah.
Also, just another thing I found interesting this week, and this is a big boon for Dany, actually. Just one of these things, and this is not something I see a lot of people use to support Dany for a lot of things, but in A Storm of Swords, chapter 28, I didn't know which Dany chapter it was, but I was audibling it, and so it tells you what chapter it is. It doesn't tell you what Dany chapter it was. About halfway through, Daenerys has a dream, and she is at the Battle of the Trident, and she is Rhaegar. And instead of riding a horse, she's riding a dragon. And it talks about she's fighting the usurper king, who I don't think she knows what Robert Baratheon looks like, obviously, but it just says that, and the usurper's men all have ice armor. And she is riding a dragon, and she is burning them, or it says bathing them in dragon fire.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting because she's referencing another dream she's having at the same time, and she's talking about one being, like this one being pleasant, and the other was a nightmare. And it's just interesting. It's a lowercase o, but it's just interesting that she's thinking about killing these men of ice, and she says the other is a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, the other is a nightmare.
Is a nightmare.
So you know that.
Yeah. Is a nightmare.
Significance.
It's very interesting. And so there's kind of this dream that Dany's having. And to me, like we have talked about, where is the battle with the Night King going to take place? A lot of people are saying, wouldn't it make the most sense for this all to take place at the Trident? So Daenerys is even already having this dream of killing this usurper king. Because for her to claim Westeros, that is another usurper king she would have to kill.
Yeah, she would.
Especially in the show, right? In the books, could all totally be different. But in the show, for her to claim Westeros, she's going to have to kill this usurper king because Tommen is dead. There is no other king. So I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because...
And it does tie into this whole... You could argue the three heads of the dragon, Jon, Dany, potentially Tyrion. I don't know if has the show mentioned three heads of the dragon.
I think it has. I was just doing a little bit of research. I think when she is in the House of the Undying, I think she sees. I think it's maybe it's mentioned there. I'm not really sure actually if the show has or not. I'm about to read something though from the Citadel. If you're on Westeros.org, you're familiar with the Citadel. Basically. And I'm not exactly, I can't remember, well, it would be the second book, wouldn't it?
Or Clash of Kings.
When she's in the House of the Undying.
I think it is.
Or is it the first book?
No.
It's after
the first book ends. The first book ends with her with Khal Drogo.
That's right. Yep. Yep. So okay, let's see here. This is just all about the dragon has three heads and just kind of a theory. So in summary, here's some of the quotes from the book. Looking into several rooms in the hallway in the House of the Undying, Daenerys sees several scenes, some of which appear to be of the past, some of the present, and some of the future. The first of these is a woman being savaged by 4 little rat-like men. The second is a room filled with savagely slaughtered corpses, which appear to have been attending a feast. A dead man with the head of a wolf, wearing an iron crown and holding a leg of lamb, like a king might hold a scepter, sits at a throne, his eyes looking at Dany with mute appeal. The third room shows her old home in Bravos in Sir William Derry. The fourth shows an old man on a barbed throne, saying to another man below him, "Let him be king over charred bones and cooked meat, and let him be king of ashes." The fifth room finally shows a man very much like her brother Viserys, except he's taller and has eyes of dark indigo rather than lilac. He is speaking to a woman who is nursing a newborn babe, telling her that the child's name should be Aegon, and saying that what better name for a king. The woman asks if he will make a song for the child, and he replies that he has a song, and that he is the prince that was promised, and his song is of ice and fire. He appears to look at Dany then, as if seeing her, and then he adds that there must be one more, and the dragon has 3 heads.
Okay.
I just kind of,
Yeah.
there it is. There's the out of the book when we talk about where does that come from. Rhaegar somehow is under the impression that the dragon has to have 3 heads.
Right.
So is it is it something he read? It's something he's working on. He's obsessed with the prince that was promised and Azor Ahai and all this stuff. So and it's more the prince that was promised. Isn't that what he's obsessed with, and not necessarily
right.
Azor Ahai?
Yeah.
Because I think when Maester Aemon is coming to, and I could be wrong, so if you're listening out there, correct me. I know Gus is listening, so let me know, Gus. You know I am, man. I think he's talking about the misinterpretation of prince or princess. Right. And so often Rhaegar was...
Missandei says it in the show, Missandei says it.
Okay, yeah.
It's when like Davos and Jon and they're all...
Right, okay.
And they're walking, they're just talking about, well, it could be mistranslated. It could be prince or princess. There is no...
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys so it's something to think on as we read through some of these Ravens, Yeah. So where does that idea, as Sir Matt has mentioned, Azor Ahai prophecy from long ago. The prince that was promised, though, we can look up that.
That seems newer.
Yeah, it seems like it's something.
And they seem at some point to kind of get blended and become like all one thing, right? Kind of like how in the World of Ice and Fire it talks about, well, it was the last hero, it was Azor Ahai, it was,
right. What's
the other one? Was it the prince who was promised? I can't remember. But
so I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. So from the
I have
War of Ice and Fire,
I'll pull it up.
Wiki here. The prince that was promised is a prophesied leader or savior. The prince may be part of an ancient prophecy which foretells the coming of a hero to deliver the world from darkness. A bleeding star is supposed to herald the coming of the prince. The prince is said to have a song, the Song of Ice and Fire. And so that was what Rhaegar. So Rhaegar is often talking about the prince that was promised. And so, just as I think it was Sam the Hammer or let's see, who was the other one that we had there?
Well, okay, here. So in A World of Ice and Fire, it is written that there are annals in Ashai of such a darkness. So this is in Ashai.
Yeah.
Of such a darkness, and of a hero who fought against it with a red sword. His deeds are said to have been performed before the rise of Valyria in the earliest age when Old Gis was first forming its empire. The legend has spread west from Ashai, and the followers of R'hllor claim that this hero was named Azor Ahai and prophesy his return. Calquo Votar recounts a curious legend from Yiti which states that the sun hid its face from the earth for a lifetime, ashamed at something none could discover, and that the disaster was averted only by the deeds of a woman with a monkey's tail.
Wow. Interesting. So Melisandre, it uses them interchangeably.
Right.
And that's what it kind of says, right? And that she...
Right, yeah.
She believes them to be one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
The prince that was promised in Azor Ahai.
Right.
Right? Okay. Yeah, and I think you just hear Rhaegar though refer to it as the prince that was promised, prophecy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So again, they are kind of in my mind they've always been a little bit they are more strongly related to R'hllor, right? And so that red priesthood, it's kind of that's what they're preaching in Essos, and that does I get how that moves west. And you can kind of see how Rhaegar would be drawn to that, knowing where they're from, Valyria, and being back in Essos, and maybe looking up some of the ancient texts and things concerning, these prophecies and stuff. But I don't know. It's just also weird to me that so that warrior that came, like the Long Night. When we think of it happening, we think of it happening in Westeros,
right?
Right, and is that where it was at? Is that where winter, fell? The Long Night fell, there with, yeah. So I don't know.
Well, we had talked a while back about man, what happens during winter in Essos? Does it happen in Essos? Maybe back then the world was still considered one place, right? Before the breaking of.
Yeah.
The arm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's the thing that you've always read to me that I think was the breaking of the arm. You're right. Yeah,
right.
We're actually about to get Lord Adam Parker has a real neat kind of thing on the powers of the waters and the hammering of the waters.
Yeah.
Or was that Sam the Hammer? Sam the Hammer, I think, said something about that too.
Yeah.
So something neat Sir Matt has often mentioned is that when in talking about this, the prince that was promised here, young Rhaegar actually he agrees with Maester Aemon. That he might be the prince that was promised, according to Arstan Whitebeard. But one day, Rhaegar found something in his scrolls that changed him, and he decided to become a knight, telling Sir William Derry, "I require a sword and armor. It seems I must be a warrior." So does that mean that it's something that either changed him and that he needed to help? It was something that to further the prophecy, that he was going to fulfill that himself, or did he think that there would be another prince that was promised?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the only reason I know it is it's a chapter 9 of A Storm of Swords. It's referenced, and I'm gonna see which Dany chapter that is. Chapter Wait, it must be chapter 8. Excuse me, Daenerys 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Audible counts the prologue as chapter 1, so
gotcha.
That's why. Yeah. So Daenerys 1, and it's like short into it, but it's when Barristan Selmy, air quotes, is talking to Daenerys, and it says Rhaegar just got up one day. He used to be a bookish guy, and then he just gets up one day and says, "All that changed. Down. It's time for me to put down the book and pick up a sword."
Yeah. Absolutely. Here's okay. So. Just because we've trying to put all this together, right? In A Dance of Dragons, something also neat. Sir Barristan Selmy is talking to Dany about her mother Rhaella and her father King Aerys, and their grandfather King Jaehaerys commanded that they be wed after a woods witch had foretold that the prince who was promised would be born of their line. That woods witch, is that not the one that came with Jenny?
Could be
of Oldstones, or was it someone different?
Could be, which could be the Ghost of Highheart. I think is the Ghost of Highheart. I think you and I.
Well, now wait a second, because that came after Jaehaerys, because
Jaehaerys the second is in between Egg and Mad King.
Oh, so it could have been.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it goes Egg, and then Jaehaerys the second. Because most of his kids die.
Yes. Yeah.
At Summerhall.
You're right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. Okay. Yeah. When Dany asked about the Woods Witch, Barristan mentioned that Summerhall, and is then asked to leave by his weary queen. Huh. So there's a mention of Summerhall there, that reference to the Ghost of Highheart. As we did mention last week, is upset about Jenny of Oldstone. So, anyways, wow. See how this all is connected somehow.
Yeah.
You know
what's interesting? And I'm thinking about this now. I wonder if anyone has made this connection. Is you have Summerhall and Winterfell.
Wow.
Is there? And Summerhall burns down.
Yeah.
To dragon fire.
Is it dragonfire?
Well, wildfire.
Right. Well, is it that? What do we know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's very interesting. So. Okay, I think should we jump back into some other Ravens
Absolutely.
here?
I think we have Lord Adam Parker's next. Is that, or we have one before that?
Do we do Sam the Hammer here? We get last thing from Sam here. He mentioned that I made a great choice in my football club. That I'm supporting now, West Ham. So he talked about some of their origins and things. He actually sent me a clip of the old scissor kick. This is a famous shot made by the club back in the day. So really cool. I'm looking forward to kind of learning more about them and supporting them. So excited there. So yeah, Lord Adam Parker here, and you're gonna have to. We'll go back and forth with this and possibly read this.
Let me pull it up in the Gmail here.
Okay, so happy Friday, sirs. This theory of Lightbringer, let this theory of Lightbringer blow your minds this weekend, and it is very, very interesting. This is complicated, so I will just dive right into it. The wall was constructed to perform two functions. Number one, to physically sever the continent and keep it under watch day and night. Night, in this sense, can also be considered the darkness of long winters. During the darkness, the others began to encroach south. Number two, to stop the whites and ice spiders, which may or may not be myths, the other things that come with the others and their dead army, their army of undead. For every living thing they kill, their army grows by one. So those are the two sort of functions of the wall, right? To prevent the others and the whites from coming south. These functions must be both static and active. The Horn of Joramun, which has a few candidates that exist already, will wake giants, so quote there, wake giants from the earth. The horn is designed to cause some kind of cataclysm, possibly an earthquake of some kind. Different people interpret the waking of giants to be an earthquake, others actual giants. Given that the giants do still exist and are awake already, I postulate that the first is more likely. Some believe the wall is woven with magical spells, or perhaps there are dragons underneath. Quote, "The wall is more than just ice and stone," he said. "There are spells woven into it, old ones and strong." End quote. While I think magic is clearly a factor, the dragons not so much. But we'll get ourselves some white dragons later on. And pay attention later on because Lord Adam Parker talks a lot about this idea that a dragon, kind of what we see in the show, would become like a white, in a sense, would be this creature of darkness that is taken over by the others. All right? Okay, so moving on. Quote here. We have a little quote from the book. This is from Leaf. "Gone down into the earth, into the stones, into the trees. Before the first men came, all this land that you call Westeros was home to us. Yet even in those days, we were few. The giants are almost gone as well. They who were our bane and our brothers." Leaf. End quote. The children and their magic is interlinked with the earth itself, the water, plant, and animal life. I'm of the conviction that the magic which we've seen is just different manifestations of the same force. I think it has to do with the life essence which resides in energy and in blood, fire and blood. I'll come back to this when discussing blood sacrifices later. So here, question from Lord Adam Parker. What is something that an earthquake causes, other than the obvious serious damaging of a massive ice wall? To answer that, he mentions tsunamis. Recall with me the hammer of the waters. The children were said to use their magic ability by battling the first men. And he pulled this from the wiki, and I think we mentioned this in A World of Ice and Fire, actually, in the main series here. So, quote, "For roughly 2,000 years, the two races fought a desperate war of dominance." So this being the children and the first men. The children used their magic to shatter the Arm of Dorne, the land bridge through which the first men came, in a futile attempt to end the invasion and later flooded the neck, where legend has it that the children called upon their gods from the children's tower to send the hammer of the waters to smash the neck, as they smashed the Arm of Dorne. But it was not enough to stop the advance of the first men. End quote. So after this war, the open fields went to mankind, and the forest to the children of the forest, as Leaf continues from the earlier quote. Now, I want to stop right there for a second because I've read Lord. I had to read this ahead of time.
Yeah,
because
we had to
it's
read this
massive. So what he's getting at here is the functionality of the wall. Okay,
Right.
and what its purpose is, which we've discussed. Now we're looking at magic, and we're looking at where these magical beings, the children, live. After they weren't able to use the waters to destroy, the first men, they retreat to the forests. So the forests are their domain, and the open fields where there's not a lot of forest life, that's where the first men would hang out. They felt more comfortable there. So let's continue on. Quote here, "The gods gave us long lives, but not great numbers. Least we overrun the world as deer will overrun a wood where there are no wolves to hunt them." End quote. So that was Leaf again kind of talking about how they have long life, the children do,
Right.
but they are kind of, they're low in numbers,
Right.
and they're dwindling. So now the Cranogmen, he goes on to mention, the Cranogmen, those who now currently live in the Neck, became close with the children during this time, let's say 2,000 years ago, which is why I think some descendants of the first men have green side abilities, such as Jojen, Bran, and Bloodraven. And again, that
Right.
makes a lot of sense. So that's intermixing between those men. They're shorter, they're kind of stunted. It seems like there was some breeding with maybe children of the forest.
Right.
Okay? Clearly the children have the ability to specifically affect the ocean through the use of tsunamis. I mean, shit. Under the sea, you fall up, and under the sea, smoke rises in bubbles. Patchface, which is cool. He's definitely a character to pay attention to. The hammer, I hypothesize, is not the only thing they can manipulate seawater to do. So that's not the only thing that they can make seawater do. It's just how they chose to do that 12,000 years ago. All right. Cue the first Green Seer and legendary Stark with the blood of the first man, Bran the Builder.
Right.
And so this is where we're back to the wall, back in this time before and or around the Long Night. Okay, this dude straight up built the wall, right? Well, not without the help of the little squirrel people, however. All right, they need to sing. They need to sing and raise the waters, but they also need to provide their forests. So he's kind of talking about how Bran the Builder works with the children in a way in which possibly they would use their forests and they would sing the waters to rise to build the wall.
Right.
Right. Yep. Okay. Okay. So he continues on. See, he needed wood too. Wood? ? Yes. I'll get to that. First, it's clear by this train of thought that the children of the forest and Bran the Builder used magic to manipulate seawater to construct the wall itself. Okay. So now, another quote here from Maester Aemon, quote, "I should not have left the wall. Lord Snow could not have known, but I should have seen it. Fire consumes, but cold preserves. The wall, but it's too late to go running back." End quote. So there's that idea that, the properties of the cold preserving, some of these magics that are laid in to the wall. All right, so moving on here. This is where the Red Comet, a.k.a. Bleeding Star, Dragon's Tail, Red Sword, Mormont's Torch, Sword that Slays, so on, and Lightbringer comes into play. The comet itself appeared to Daenerys the night the dragons were born. If we should trust anyone, it should be Old Nan. Okay, and when Old Nan is asked about the comet, she says, "Dragons. It be dragons, boy." And, I mean...
Yeah.
The discussion's over. Old Man said it, okay?
Share a sea star.
Yeah. As an aside about seasons, I think the vicinity of this comet to the planet has an effect on the seasonal changes occurring alongside the magic. All right, moving on. The comet and the dragons, a.k.a. Fire Made Flesh, are the metaphorical scabbards of Lightbringer, but they have not yet released it. This is where the woods come into play. The children of the forest and the first men obviously understood two things. They need fire to stop the whites, and you need obsidian to stop the others. Well, look, it's 8,000 years ago in the past. The children of the forest have resigned to coexist with mankind so they can forestall their extinction from the others. So that's where they kind of make this alliance. So again, remember, they're at war with mankind. The children are warring with the first men, but they decide that they need to kind of work with men, to exist, because they're going to be extinct. They're going to be extinct if they don't. They're already few numbers dwindled even then. I hypothesize that they may have offered the destruction of sections of their forests no longer needed due to the decline in population during the long night into the construction of the wall. So this is where, Sir Matt and I were talking about this a little bit, and he's going to go on to describe the gift, Brandon's gift, and the new gift. But just so we understand what's happening here, the functionality of this wall, what it's meant to do, and he's kind of metaphorically, the wall is Lightbringer, is kind of what we're getting to here, right? Okay, so let's see. Understood two things, right? Okay, you need fire to set the whites coexist. So. Where was I? I hypothesized that they offered the destruction of the section of forest no longer needed due to the decline in population during the long night into the construction of the wall, fire and blood. So the children are giving up sections of their forest to help build this wall. Lord Adam Parker asked the question, why? So we do not know... we do know that before this wall was built, that Lightbringer was used by this fellow, Azor Ahai, to end the long night. Cool stuff, but really one handheld flaming sword against legions of the undead, not buying it. It was something else entirely, okay? More than that, what is it called? Lightbringer. First was Brandon's gift, a forest cut and lined across the continent to be set ablaze and burned the army of the dead. All right, so there's that. And if you know where Brandon's gift is, this section south of the wall. Later, it's called Brandon's gift, but at the time, it's Lord Adam Parker is saying it's a section that the children gave up to set ablaze. Right.
Yep.
Okay, great stuff. Children of Forest. That's awesome. We need to make sure this doesn't happen again. We need more trees. So the second area, later to be called the new gift, was cleared once more of trees and used in the construction of the current wall and its wood fuel. Of course, afterwards, the land was used instead to give sustenance to the Night's Watch. While we're on the subject of names, ponder why it's called the Haunted Forest. I'll return to this. The wall's passive function is at an end, and the others approach with a force capable of assaulting it and surpassing it. See Mormont being attacked by a white in Castle Black. Time to activate Lightbringer. Okay, the Horn of Joramun, whichever horn it is blown at the arrival of winter / the return of the others. This will destroy the ice encasing the massive wood pile spanning the width of the continent. Lightbringer releases its scabbard and angles its blade towards the great other. The sword that slays the seasons will be ready to slay winter itself by countering the darkness with light. The wall is on fire, killing all the whites. I actually kind of like this. It's if you had this, winter is bearing down on you, and you have this fire, this sword. You break the wall down
it's
and
nuke.
Yeah, it's
basically a Westeros nuclear.
You
weapon.
Cannot get past a wall of fire.
Right.
You're not going to do it. And as you mentioned earlier, they're not going to swim around this thing. They're not going into the water necessarily. So there's that. So he says to return briefly to discussing magic, I would like to assert that the woodpile is drenched in blood of the first men to be exact. Hey, maybe even some dragon blood too. It was a steep price to pay, but the power inside it would be necessary. Melisandre confuses this blood similar to that of the old Valyrians as king's blood. The fact of the matter is, the Northerners made blood sacrifices to werewolves up until about 500 years ago, and it's no coincidence. Little Ravenwood God Power boy Bran Stark's last vision is of someone being sacrificed in front of the heart tree. Quote, as his life flowed out of him in a red tide, Brandon Stark could taste the blood, end quote. Blood clearly has magical properties, which are utilized by all kinds of magic, and once more, they are enhanced by the arrival of the Red Comet, dragons, Lightbringer.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. The next step in this theory is the dragons getting to Westeros, specifically the north. How's that going to happen? Let's assume the show and the book are similar and that the dragons go north. Viserion dies with the spear. So much blood is spilt, he will be covered in blood. Red, veined, white.
Yep.
So pay attention to that idea of Viserion going north, getting killed. Very similar to the show, and then is risen, but is covered in blood and is red, veined, white. Here we go. So, quote, you will never walk again, but you will fly. How horrifying, but also Bran will be far more powerful by this time and can overpower Warg White Viserion and set Lightbringer ablaze. So that's using dragon fire. Bran basically warging into this dragon,
Right.
and that he will fly again. He's flying with this dragon and setting the wall ablaze. Remember the haunted forest I was talking about? It's rather close to the wall. Perhaps it's close enough to be set on fire by Lightbringer, causing a massive fire that kills all the White army. So that haunted forest being north of the wall, if you light the wall on fire and it's close enough, some of that fire could set that forest ablaze.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of root them out, right? Viserion covered in blood, red-veined white. Sound familiar? Literally a flying werewood. Also, from Tyrion to
Winds of Winter.
Winds of Winter. Quote here: the white Sivas dragon ended up at Tyrion's feet. He scooped it off the carpet and wiped it on his sleeve. But some of the younkish blood had collected in the fine grooves of the carving, so the pale wood seemed veined with red. Now that's pretty neat. That's something I actually hadn't come across, and so I was wondering where Lord Adam Parker was going with this, with the idea of this red veined dragon it's white. Get this but he makes the connection here to Tyrion and this dragon that has these grooves,
right?
That full of red blood, right? One more thing. Bran needs his epic hero name, doesn't he? This is great. Bran the Blood Dragon. All right. In addition, Bran can fly to the north and end the world. Can fly to the north end of the world and confront the Great Other. So basically, going beyond the haunted forest and going to the land of always winter. Whatever he saw up there, at long last, that's at least the goal. But I don't think it's going to go down like that to the dissatisfaction of Bloodraven. The others will persist. It'll be bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, this can be another manifestation of the coming of Dance of Dragons, which Gur said would happen again. This wasn't necessarily a dance with dragons. We can have competing point of views from Dragon Riders, Dragon Warg, to make some amazing battles. The significance of the white has a third symbolic message, which I will use to tie up this later. Okay. It's totally up to Sam to get the obsidian, by the way. His friend, currently suffering from stab wounds and growing cold beneath the wall, Jon Snow chilling in the ice walls, or the ice cells, needs to stop being a stiff already. True. That's true. I really hope in the book he actually comes back to life. So cue Melisandre sacrificing herself to retrieve Jon Snow. Only death can pay for life. What a wake-up call, rising from the dead next to a massive inferno. This old wood burns, releasing black smoke into the air, while the faint smell of seawater still lingers in the air as it is adjacent to ice. As the adjacent ice is melted, Azor Ahai is born amidst smoke and salt. So the idea that this burning, that smoke and that salt, being from the wall, from the seawater and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, we add on a few hundred layers of tinfoil. Okay, I like it. Bran touches down Viserion outside of Castle Black as Sam arrives with a full obsidian armor. Obsidian armor, wow. And Jaime and Brienne arrive wielding a reforged ice. Jon and Bran take flight and go around torching the others' heels. Others' assault fails, and they retreat north. It's important to keep in mind Azor Ahai is whomever wields the blade. Is that Viserion? Is that the Night's Watch? Is it Jon, Bran? Many more, maybe, perhaps. I'm not making a specific call, but a great manifestation of the legend seems appropriate. I would like to add in one small discussion on symbolism. The third reason that I think we'll see a white dragon has to do with the red comet and the duelist theme of a song of ice and fire. Recall from astronomy class.
Nope, I don't.
No, I don't. What are comets made of? Mostly ices and a little bit of rock. It is both ice and fire, and the song is of its effect on this world. More abstractly, it is the forces at play in the human heart, which is constantly in conflict with itself. George agrees that this is the only thing worth writing about. Each character has elements of both In its experiences, fire consumes but cold preserves. The white dragon is one of the binary bending events, another of which will be Jon Snow. It is literally fire made flesh, reborn with the power of ice. All of this indicates to me that ice and fire are one and the same. The Great Other, the Many-Faced God, R'hllor are all the same force, the one we call magic. Magic preserving and magic consuming, and a continuous ebb and flow. All right, another thing here, a couple more things from Lord Adam Parker. When the red star bleeds, this is a quote, and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amidst smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. Melisandre. Dragons out of stone, ? People often conclude that there will be some kind of literal stone dragon or perhaps some obsidian armor for Drogon, or maybe this is an allusion to a coming grayscale plague. None of this is correct. The stone part of the wall is likely its base, as well as a shield against the flames themselves for the castle. A real wall is beneath the ice wall. One side is the Night's Watch, protected by the stone and the magic woven into the wall itself. On the other, the wood, a.k.a. the angled blade of Lightbringer, the stone dragon, White Viserion, is poised to catch the haunted forest on fire and destroy the incoming army of the dead in one swing. And the last little thing, Tyrion rides the one dragon he bonded with when he unlocked them, because as we know from my last Raven, you don't need to be a Targaryen. You just need to be bonded with one sincerely. Lord Adam Parker from the Earth Wisdom. Wow.
First of all,
there's
thank
some
you
thought.
to Lord Adam Parker once again sending us a ultra detailed, well in depth, well researched Raven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a reason he is Lord Adam Parker.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't forget it. Yeah. So thoughts, Sir Matt, on some of that there. This is a different take on Lightbringer. It's not a sword at all.
Well, first of all, it's definitely going to have to be a bookism, because
absolutely,
the show they've already destroyed some of the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is almost a character that we forget about.
The wall.
The wall itself, because every time they talk about the wall, they do talk about how there's like magical properties.
Yeah.
Right, and all of this stuff. There's so much. Because I am more diving into this Three Heads of the Dragon, Azor Ahai prophecy, Lightbringer, as we kind of like
Prince that was promised.
It's all there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. It is interesting because I've definitely not heard the theory that there's wood and stuff in the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would destroy.
Well, it kind of seems, and maybe Lord Adam Parker can correct me if I'm wrong, that he's saying here that to fight off this first invasion, the children made an alliance, and they perhaps set their, as a gift to men, the forest is sacred to them. They're the children of the forest.
Right.
Now, that's not what they call themselves, but that's what they were named by the first men and so on, because that's where they lived. That's where they inhabited. So for them to burn up, to destroy, self-destruct their own home to keep the others, or the whites at bay is a lot for them.
Right.
Right? And then, as he said, that's not enough. We need more. We need to do something else so that, good job, but what if they come back? You've just basically pushed them back. You beat back the long night and defeated the darkness, but what if they come back?
Right.
And then so the wall is raised. And
we need a wall.
Right. We need a wall.
We need a wall.
And basically the idea is you take from that New Gift region, because when those were given to the Night's Watch, they were already stripped of their, there's no forest there, right? There's not a lot of, so it seems like either they were stripped, that land was stripped to build the wall, or as Lord Adam Parker says, it was used to, it was set ablaze to keep back the long night, So I think it's very interesting. I think it's, now that would mean, I don't know, how far does the long night, get to? Was there a battle at the neck or the trident? You know what I mean? Or did they stop them up there where winter fell?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Is that where it stopped? And then that's just beyond there. They build the wall. Bran the Builder works with the children.
Yeah, we don't know. And you want to know the interesting thing is, Sir Ezra, do you think? Well, we'll see how it's done in the show.
Yeah.
But do you think Winds of Winter will come out before the prequel show?
Good Lord.
The Age of Heroes prequel show.
I don't know. Yes, I think it will.
I do too.
Yeah, I think it will, and that'll be good for us.
But Winds of Winter may not even cover that.
What you mean the long night stuff?
We may not get it. We may not get backstory on.
No,
If it's similar to the show and it ends with like Jon Snow becoming king
Yeah.
in the North and ends with like Battle of the Bastards.
right. But I think the long night I think when he writes this, I think as it comes, it will be similar,
Right.
possibly to what was before, because it's kind of what he's doing is showing this things return. It's slightly different. What you've heard in legend, though, you'll find out that here when you greet it face to face, when darkness shows up right in front of you, it's not going to be like what the old stories said it was.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're going to be kind of like it's okay. This makes sense. You know what I mean? It's not this. It's still
Do you
big,
think
bad,
that
and
they
scary. But
so we don't know that. Well, it's possible that dragons were used in that Azor Ahai if he came from like Ashai all the way over there. We know there's dragons in Ashai.
Yeah, true.
Did he use dragons?
Maybe.
We don't know. Or are they more beneficial now having Daenerys' dragons?
Yeah, and some of that stuff again could have been lost in the telling, passing down of that prophecy, But you're right. If it is something that was sort of that was born out of the east, and came from Ashai and possibly Valyria and moved across west, then yeah, I could see that. So I don't know. I think it's really neat, and I think it was something that kind of caught me off guard today. Lord Adam Parker. It was. I think it was one of the. It's well thought out, and I really like it. It would be it's kind of girl-like. You know what I mean?
I really like his idea about Bran taking over Viserion.
Yeah,
and I could see that happening.
Okay,
because he's the winged wolf. He will fly.
Yeah.
And then that would also, because you and I talked about this, is that there's like the difference between say like Bloodraven and Bran is that Bran also is a warg and has like a green seer. So he's like, he's got all the intangibles, right? You hear that when they talk about that in sports, when they're talking about like when teams are like drafting players, like, oh, we want this guy because he has all the intangibles.
Right.
Well, if you're the great other three-eyed crow, whatever, Bloodraven's good, but it's not Bran. Doesn't
Sure, if you're looking for an asset, you mean, yeah.
Right. I mean, Bran seems to have it all going for him. So
Yeah.
Bran, we also see in the show, maybe does have more power than Bloodraven.
Yeah.
So maybe Bran can warg into that dragon and take it over.
Right.
And that would be kind of maybe his role, at least certainly in the show, but possibly in the books too. Because I do believe that the Night King or the Great Other or whatever, there is going to be some reason Daenerys is going to lose one of her dragons.
Yeah.
Or there is just going to be an ice dragon.
Okay.
I think that the Dance with Dragons, whether it's an ice dragon and whether
Sure.
even if you go to the idea that a lot of people have that there's a dragon in the wall, right?
Sure.
And maybe they blow the horn thinking it's going to kill the others, but on accident it gives them a dragon, and then like they take it, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I do believe there's going to be a battle between an ice dragon and like a regular dragon. And that'd be awesome. That'd be super cool.
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe that's Bran's role, as Bran can take it over.
Yeah. Huh. That would be neat. That
Kind of
really
like
would
this self-sac, and maybe he dies in the process. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you wonder how much because I mean, like when they talk about skin changing, it's you got to be. There are some animals that are, like cats are super hard to kind of stay in and control. You don't feel good in their skin and stuff. So maybe it takes more to dominate the mind of a dragon, than it does these other beasts.
And I'm also just thinking about the connection, right? When you think about the dire wolves, right, that they have. I wonder if anyone's done this, broken down kind of the names of the dire wolves and their connection to the Starks that they have. So it's interesting, right? So you have Ghost, right? Ghost is Jon's dire wolf, and we know Jon dies, and then he rises again in the show. I think in the first 3 chapters, right? Jon's going to be,
Yeah, I better.
Yeah. if it doesn't, then every theory everyone's ever had is out the window.
But Lord Adam, it could be longer. He might rise later.
He might rise later.
At the end.
But so if Jon Snow comes back, the idea of like a ghost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Sansa and Lady, and like Sansa's trying to become a lady, and she learns very early her idea of what being a lady is like tossed out the window.
Yeah,
and her wolf dies. Arya is Nymeria, and she becomes this warrior queen.
Right.
Everything that's certainly what Arya is kind of becoming.
Right.
And then you have Grey Wind with Robb. And when you think of a strong wind, like I think of something like, oh, it's here and it's really powerful, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Which is kind of similar.
Yeah.
But then Bran is summer.
Yeah. Right.
And Bran awakes from a dream brought to him by the three-eyed crow.
Yeah.
And he sees his direwolf and names it Summer, which is the opposite of like the idea of a Stark. Winter is coming. And he names his Summer.
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe through the like darkness, possibly if you do go with the idea that like three-eyed crow is bad, controlled by the Great Other, through the darkness, Bran can see Summer.
Yeah, another thing because we talked about this, I don't know when, but the idea, as you just said there, I think that he's going to be battling with something internally. I think Bran is going to be
because it seems like Bloodraven. It seems like Bloodraven's doing that.
Yeah, sure.
It seems like he kind of slips back and forth. I'm Brendan. No, I'm the three-eyed crow.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's going to be some battle going on there, and you said it best. I think like the idea that like there's almost like something is taking over,
like possessing.
Possessing a parasite or something.
Right.
Really, just a virus or something spreading through Bloodraven. I think Bran will end up having. We said the proximity to Summer right now.
Right.
Summer's getting further and further away from him.
Yeah.
And as Catelyn had mentioned, and Ned knows, you got to keep these direwolves close.
Right.
It's bad when they get,
even Jon too. Think about what happens, Jon, because sometimes goes away and then he comes back and
right. Mm-hmm.
Seems like he comes back at the right times and
yeah. So I just think there'll be some struggle there where the direwolf is kind of calling him back. That relationship and bond will pull him, back to the right side.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I think he may drift into the darkness a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's my thoughts.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I really like this, Lord Adam Parker. This is
really well put together. A lot of research, really well done.
Lord Adam just went nuts, you know. So it did kind of blow my mind. It is a very it's a very different way at looking at Lightbringer. So I'm glad we had those classic traditional conversations about it, and then we look at this and it's still fits.
Yeah.
It's very
something I kind of want to bring up here in my notes.
Yeah.
Just because I want to reference my notes here because I'm all about them.
Yeah.
Just because it kind of goes with this idea of Bran, right? So I was listening to A Sworn Sword, which is the second Dunk and Egg book, because I listened to like where we're at in the current chapter, and then I listened to like World of Ice and Fire, and then I spent a day going through Dunk and Egg again, and then I spent a day going through just like later in the book. So like I usually go like Storm of Swords.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I found this interesting. About the end of A Sworn Sword.
Okay.
They're talking about Daemon Blackfire, and it's like a conversation between Dunk and Egg, and Egg is kind of talking bad about Bloodraven, and he's like, well, he's bastard born, and he says he's base born, and then Duncan kind of corrects him, and Duncan kind of says, well, I could be a bastard.
Right.
But before that, he says that Bloodraven is born of betrayal. And that in the end, he's talking about how all bastards are bad. He said in the end, Bloodraven would betray the realm as well.
That's what they're saying.
Just something. And he says Bloodraven isn't even a real lord. While he is noble on both sides, Bloodraven was kind of air quotes here, washed clean of his bastardry because of Aegon IV.
Sure.
All of his bastards legitimate. He says, but the laws of the gods are really another, and that bastards are born of lust and weakness, which is interesting. The idea of Rhaegar Jon Snow,
Yep.
Lyanna, lust and weakness, potentially. I don't know.
Yeah.
Aegon IV had his own set of laws. I'm paraphrasing all this, of course, but the gods had their own. Daemon Blackfire, Bittersteel, and in the end, Bloodraven would be a traitor too.
Wow. Can't trust the bastards.
So even though Bloodraven, because he's arguing that he's talking about how Aerys shouldn't have made Bloodraven the hand. He should have made his dad the hand. But people, but Aerys is kind of a sorcerer. Some people believe that Bloodraven used sorcery to become the hand.
Could have
been.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because you go back there. He's talking about how Bloodraven would betray the realm in the end, even though he always had good intentions, but kind of his magic and stuff like that would kind of ultimately get the best of him.
Yeah.
Which may be what's happening now. Where he's the three-eyed crow, and is Bran going to be the one to kind of change even this idea of the three-eyed crow? Because I believe Bran is stronger than him. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things that he puts in there real subtle, but it's like, wait a second, weakness, betrayal,
right?
Those things that he's associating with bastards. Right. Wow.
Yeah, because the difference between A World of Ice and Fire and the Dunk and Egg series is that Gur kind of like oversaw World of Ice and Fire, where he wrote these.
Yes, he did.
So there's a big difference between So even in those books, you got to take every line just like you do in the main series.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Yeah. Every word matters. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's really interesting. I want you to keep digging on that because that is like, I need to get back into that trilogy. It's not a trilogy, but it's the 3 books that are out now. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, because I feel like there's a lot. I feel like I would get a lot more out of it, like the second or third time through.
Yeah.
So
especially the second and third book. Because the first book doesn't really pertain a lot to like what's happening now. Yeah. But the second and third book, just because they talk about Bloodraven a lot, and just they talk a lot more about dragons, and they talk about like Dunk is kind of talking about like if you play with dragons in the end you'll get burned, which is interesting because he may die at Summerhall.
Right. Yeah.
And just that kind of that kind of stuff too. I don't know.
Yeah, that's honestly good because
does that mean that like that could be a line that could later imply that Jon and Daenerys and whoever the other third head of the dragon are, could die. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good place to kind of like leave us because like aren't we in that chapter this week? We're in. Are we in Jaehaerys first?
We're in Egg in the 5th. We're in Egg.
We're in Egg.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lengthy discussion because the World of Ice and Fire chapter has a lot, but there's so much to pull from.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So we'll be talking about his reign, but you'll hear us.
You have to talk about his
rise
first.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So we'll spend a significant portion of this week's upcoming show on Monday talking about Egg.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, and all that good stuff. So we even get into a little bit of Summerhall discussion.
Yeah.
Which will always teeter around because there's not much there, but we'll definitely give it a go. So, all right, though. Any other last thoughts on like this Lightbringer stuff? I mean, I think it's all really fascinating. We had the traditional conversations. We had a very neat take on it from.
Unfortunately, until we get Winds of Winter or Season 8, our only hope is there's something that we can pull from in Fire and Blood when it comes out later this year.
Yeah, and I don't think they're. And you see, if this were Fire, if let's say we're getting the second volume, possibly that's when the conversation seemed to start.
Right.
About the 3 heads and Prince that was promised and all that good stuff. So. But I don't know. I'm interested here if anybody has any corrections, today or things they want to add.
I'm sure there's tons.
Yeah, for sure. Send us a Raven for sure, and we'll try to bring some of those up quickly. Next Friday, just to kind of, go from there. So, wow. All right, man. We've been all over the place. It's fantastic. I love it. Thank you guys for sending the Ravens in. Huge shout out again to Hunter and Sam the Hammer,
and there's we even have one, but we just don't have time to get to today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I want to say the Ghost definitely wrote us today, but looking at the time, we have the Ghost and we even have another one that just came in. That we're gonna have to.
And we have another Adam Parker one that is enormous about dragons,
right?
And
yeah. Oh, Bradley Mercer, who I wanted to mention, is sent in the first Raven we were discussing there for a little bit.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, huge shout out to him. Appreciate that. And if like I said, if you've been listening, and we said this last week, and you've been wondering whether you should send in a Raven, you should.
Absolutely.
You should send it in to btkcast@gmail.com, and we'll discuss it. We'll look it over. And they seem to follow a trend, a theme.
Yep.
So we'll try to kick that off again this Monday and maybe pick a topic going forward for you to write us about. So
absolutely. So, well, I guess time to sign off here, Sir Ezra.
Yep.
In the words of no, we got to get to trivia. People probably thought I forgot it.
I forgot. Hey, let me tell you who forgot over here. I forgot about trivia.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Should we just wait? Let's wait. No, we're at the end. We got to get it. All right. Real simple this week. Who knights Gendry?
Yeah.
Who says the words? Only a knight can make a knight.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think a lord can, but a knight can make a knight.
Yeah. Huh.
So, who knights Gendry?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, guys, that is our trivia for this week. And I believe Sir Robbie of Newcastle is out, so good luck to
whoever's up.
Yeah, whoever. All those other people who normally hit us up super early. Maybe we'll publish this episode at 7.
Maybe.
Give them a chance.
We'll see. Well, here's the thing. If I can even
given your upload time here too.
I've had some trouble uploading these things because I'm back on 10 megabytes a second over here. So I got to fix that.
That's okay. All right, guys. In the words of House Ashford, our sun shines bright.